Together.
Take both, it's now 32. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Somebody else?
I believe we are good to go.
Right, let's call the meeting to order. With that, the first order of business is to announce our next hearing in this room, which will be January 28th at 8:30 a.m. With that, I'd like to swear on the staff, please. All those from the staff, would you raise your right hand? You swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So say I do.
I do, Stephanie Hensler.
I do, Adam Price.
Thank you very much. And then the board roll call, please. Stephanie.
Thank you. Mr. Whitman,
Here.
Mr. Loversige,
Here.
Ms. Maniaci. Here. Mr. Slavic,
Here.
Ms. Bartley. Here. Mr. Beatty. Here. Ms. Rittler. Here. Mr. Pongonis
Here.
and Ms. Brown. Here. We do have a quorum.
Okay, very good. And would you go ahead and review the hearing format for us, please?
Certainly. For each case, city staff will present the staff report and related application materials. The applicant will then come to the table and be sworn in and then present any additional materials. If we have any registered speakers, they will approach the podium, be sworn in, and then provide 3 minutes each to speak. And then after that, the commissioners will discuss the case and ask any questions if needed.
Very good. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting, please? I think we have a motion. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Any questions, comments, additions, deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Otto has joined us. And with that, I think we're ready to go on to the cases, please.
Right, and you will note a change to the agenda. The first case, COA 24-00027, has been removed. That applicant withdrew earlier this week. As the MOU they were working on is not quite ready, and they're planning to come back in January.
Thanks.
We'll just jump to the second case, which is COA 24-00579 for 347 East Gay Street. 347 East Gay Street includes 2 parcels currently used as surface parking lot at the southwest corner of East Gay Street and Grant Avenue. The applicant is seeking commission approval to construct a 6-story, 71-unit affordable apartment building. The first floor includes 21 structured parking spaces via an existing curb cut on Grant, lined with amenity spaces on Gay. The building also includes north and south outdoor terraces. Key materials include brick, cast stone, fiber cement, horizontal fiber cement shiplap siding, vertical flush metal siding, and exterior uplighting. Graphics will be a separate future application. The applicant was last before the commission at the December 2023 meeting, where they expressed support of infill development on this site and complimented the massing and horizontal banding. The commission noted that it would not be ideal to have people on the second floor podium space because there are units right next door, and recommended that the primary entrance door be made more prominent. Since that meeting, the applicant has reduced the parking spaces from 27 spaces to 21. The submitted materials include a site plan, utility plan, site details, floor plan, roof plan, elevations, sections, building details, renderings, material details, and material cut sheets. We can go through those materials quickly. Just the site plan. We have some building details here, the wall types. Here is the ground floor. You see those amenity spaces here with the parking access off of Grant. Second floor plan. You can see one of the terraces here. 3rd through 6th floor. Here's the roof plan. And then we have our elevations. sections, wall sections. We have the materials board. And then we have the material cut sheets if you have any questions about the specific materials. With that, the downtown design guidelines recommend that buildings located on a quarter lot be designed to address both streets, utilize high quality materials and a higher level of design with a transparent first floor and landscaping that complements the overall development. They also state that parking structures have a high level of design to minimize their monotony, integrate other ground floor uses, and that a reduction or elimination of curb cuts is encouraged as sites are redeveloped. Based on the information provided, this project would trigger downtown streetscape standards along the Gay Street frontage. In summary, the proposal is largely consistent with the downtown design guidelines, and staff encourages the applicant to add an art mural on the west elevation. Thank you.
Okay, very good. And you're here for the applicants. Would you raise your right hands, please? You swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so say I do.
I do.
Thank you. And could you identify yourselves for the record?
Andrew Johnson with the Development Architecture Collaborative.
And Courtney Geiger with Development Architecture Collaborative.
Okay. Is anybody here from the owner today then, too?
No.
Okay. Let's go ahead. Why don't we have seen this several times. Why don't we kind of pick up where we left off if we can manage to do that? And I'm going to encourage anybody who doesn't kind of remember, because this has been a while since we saw it, but just ask a question if you want to refresh your memories. So with that, why don't we go ahead? Let's maybe focus on how it's maybe different than what we have seen before. Please.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And then we're going to want to see your samples here.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So the previous architect, Columbus Design Company, we took the project over from them earlier this year, and basically made some value engineering decisions. We removed some of the windows, made some tweaks to some of the more expensive materials to go with something that's a little bit more simplistic on the facade. Other than that, the massing itself remained the same. The number of floors remained the same. We did reduce the parking count just based on the sizes that the original architect had weren't quite compliant with standard typical parking space sizes. So those changed slightly. Other than that, I mean, the actual facade, everything else is essentially the same, other than some, like I said, some minor tweaks to the windows, removing some of the triple windows that they kind of had stacked on top of one another.
Okay, why don't we
That's about
take
it.
a closer look at some of your elevations?
Sure.
Let's just go through those.
Yeah, so the bottom, the original, I guess the back of the building that faces an existing parking lot to the south was going to be cast stone. What we're doing is we're going to match what we're doing on the cast stone on the front. Previously, it was a veneer. Now we're going to go full depth cast stone. We're going to go full depth brick. The CMU that's on the back will be a split face CMU that will match the cast stone, same color. So the sample that you're seeing right here is the actual cast stone that we'll use, and then we'll use a CMU block in the back that matches that as well.
And that's first and second floors, actually.
Correct. Yeah, on the back side, on the back side of the building, since the first floor is all concrete, we have infill walls between the concrete structure, and that infill is what you're going to see that's going to look similar to this. And then once you get above the first floor podium, then we transition to brick, and then above the brick, we transition to horizontal siding. And then around the top of the building, you have the vertical siding. So the horizontal siding is the shiplap, cementitious shiplap, and then at the top, we have the vertical metal siding, which are both consistent.
Could you have the
Yeah,
colors?
yeah.
Sample for that, please.
This is the brick. Obviously, this is just showing it as a sample, so obviously full depth, but that's the brick itself. So for the metal siding, this is actually what the profile looks like. That is not the color, but that's the size of the actual siding. And then this is a sample of the actual color.
And that'll be the siding both for the horizontal and the.
No, this is just for the vertical siding, which is at the top of the building.
Okay.
And then the actual horizontal shiplap siding, the hardy shiplap siding. The pieces unfortunately come primed. We have not picked out a paint color, but it'll be consistent with what you're seeing in the rendering there. This is a sample of what the shiplap looks like. Obviously, there's a small gap between each of the pieces as they come down. And then in terms of like the trim between the windows at the third and fourth floor, there's a piece of hardy panel between that. So that is what this material is. It's a 5/16 inch thick cementitious panel that gets painted as well. Same with the trim. So basically all the trim, all that stuff is going to be very low maintenance, cementitious trim, cementitious hardy panels, etc.
What is the window count, please?
The windows at the first floor are all storefront. The windows on the upper floors for the residences are all double hung. I can't remember. The Forgen, I believe, is the manufacturer that the original architect
Do we
spec.
have a sample of that or?
I feel like they may have submitted. I don't know if we got a submittal for the actual punched windows or if we just submitted the. Here's the railings.
Are they aluminum? Are they?
Vinyl. Yeah, I believe they are. No, sorry. Yeah, I think they're either vinyl or fiberglass. I think they were fiberglass, I believe. It should be mentioned on the section. I apologize. It's either vinyl or fiberglass. But the look is integral muntins like that. It's a double hung window. It should call it out on there exactly what it says. What's that?
Smaller than they was before?
Windows are the same size, but what we did was the previous architect had like 3 windows like sort of stacked on top of each other, had a small little window and then a double hung, and I believe there may have even been a third window in some of the locations. So we eliminated that. The manufacturer can't really stack them. They could put them horizontally next to each other, but there really wasn't a way for them to stack them. So we kind of kept the same look. We just removed a lot of the windows. We didn't think it was absolutely necessary to have 3 windows stacked on top of each other for every one of the residences. So in some areas, we reduced those, but the overall size of the main window is the same.
So you have the same number of windows.
Correct.
You just haven't.
We have less, yeah.
You eliminated panes.
Exactly, yeah, like transoms and then the windows below the opera windows.
Whether you're saying that, are they actually smaller in size or you just put 3 and turned it?
No, it's so we basically so what was the middle one? There was a transom and then there was a lower one. We basically took out the 2 that were on the one that was on top and the one that was on bottom. So we kept them.
Opening dimension, is it smaller?
No, not the middle. Yeah, the overall middle window is the same, but you don't get 3 windows now. So basically you get 1 and it's the size of what the previous middle window was. We didn't change that, but overall you're getting less, yeah, you're getting less daylight in the units because of the reduction of the windows, but
Okay.
that was really the only change. So if you looked at what the previous elevation was and compared it to what this is, that's basically what we did to the windows. But we kept the same manufacturer, same style of window. We didn't change those. We just reduced the number of windows in the unit that were stacked on top of one another.
Did that happen on all of the windows or just some?
No, it was just where we had multiple windows stacked. I think it was on the original, at some point, there were
So it looks like-
3.
Oh, I see, yeah, yeah, okay, you can see.
Yeah. And I think maybe on that east elevation there where they had 3 windows in that middle above the garage, I think we reduced that to 2. So that might be in plan, the only change of where we reduced the window count.
Okay, walk us around if you would, around the east, the north sides and even the west, if you would, please, on the elevations.
Yeah, sure. So on the north side, obviously that faces Gay Street. So that has some outdoor amenity spaces, some plantings, obviously the streetscape. The civil team is working with the downtown design standards to make sure that all that's in adherence. So they've kind of got that designed to meet those guidelines. There are some plantings. Because it's a LIHTC project, the OFA funding and the OFA design guidelines require outdoor amenity spaces, and some of those have to be covered areas. Up to 50% of those have to be covered, which is why you're seeing that terrace on the second floor there, which I think was
On this
one of
side
your.
elevation.
Yeah, so on the, well, no, on the north elevation, it actually wraps the corner around the northeast corner. Is an outdoor terrace that's accessed through a community space or an office space upstairs on the second floor. But again, The back side, we also have a terrace that's uncovered. So in order to meet that requirement from OFA, we had to provide some covered outdoor amenity space for people that are in the dwelling units or leasing the spaces in the dwelling units. And then as we turn the corner, go ahead, sure.
This was a particular feature when it was first presented. Could you speak a little bit even more, not just with OVA, but to the design and how it contributes to the opportunity for this project?
Yeah, sure. So obviously the developer that we're working with, Finance Fund, is requesting funding 9% LIHTC on the project. The design guidelines themselves that OFA has in place, obviously we work with what's required in terms of those, but then we also have to obviously meet what's required for the downtown commission. So the original architect obviously came up with the massing that you guys were comfortable with. So we're kind of working through, sort of going through those types of things. Obviously, you know, in terms of financing for the project, you know, they don't want you to use materials that are going to have to get replaced, that are high maintenance, right? Since it's a low income project, they want you to use nice materials that are going to be low maintenance in the future, not going to have to get replaced, fixed, all that kind of stuff. So when we went through it, we kind of made some switches out to fiber cement paneling, which is a little bit more durable than some of the stuff. Full depth cast stone. We replaced the veneer on that. But in terms of the overall aesthetic, you know, obviously that was designed by the previous architect. We made some tweaks to the actual design itself. But in terms of the massing, the number of floors, we sort of maximized the construction of the project by doing a podium, concrete podium, which then allowed us to go an additional story to get more units to maximize the number of dwelling units that we could offer to the community. We've got bike racks up front that allow for, you know, obviously it's walkable. There's places that you can pick up the buses. We've got bike racks. We've got a couple public parking spots. There is a community space on the corner as well for people outside to be able to come in and collaborate with the, you know, the people in the building. We also have obviously the private parking. In terms of the parking, obviously the downtown doesn't require this actual area doesn't require off-street parking, right? So what we did in terms of parking, we provided a van accessible parking space inside the parking garage as well as a standard parking space. Those two parking spaces meet the City of Columbus design standards in terms of parking. So they've got the access aisle on both sides. And when it was initially submitted, you know, in order to provide an accessible parking space for the accessible units in the building, we provided one, I think, for each of the accessible units in the building, which was more than we really needed. But those additional parking spaces, so we have a total of 8 parking spaces, 2 of which meet the City of Columbus design standards. The other ones meet the ICC A117.1 standard, which is an 8-foot parking space and a 5-foot access aisle. So we've got additional parking spaces. And again, because City of Columbus doesn't require off-street parking for that, we sort of gave more than we needed. But again, we couldn't reduce the number of accessible parking spaces because it was when it was originally submitted to OFA as part of the 20% or 30% submission. We showed 8 spaces. The owner went back and tried to get a reduction in those accessible parking spaces. They said no, but you can potentially say during a certain number of hours, these are used by tenants, and other hours they could be used as a standard parking space. So we may or may not do that. Most likely we'll just label them all as accessible parking spaces as are shown currently. But I mean, other amenities, we've got a workout space in there, a community room, like I mentioned previously, parking, everything is sort of internally. We've maximized the site, you know, brought it about as close as we can to the property line. So there was some fire separation distance issues that we had to sort of address by rating walls and things like that. But in terms of the site plan, they've addressed all of the items in terms of the streetscape, upgrades to the streetscapes. Obviously, you guys had some concern about the curb cuts along Grant. There are 2 current curb cuts along Grant to get into that parking lot. We are obviously eliminating one of those, which is good. The other one is getting relocated. In addition to that, we have done a traffic study for the project, and the City of Columbus has reviewed that and approved that study. So as far as we know, The feedback that we've got from City of Columbus has been positive about the access from there in terms of all that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Good. Let's keep going if you would real quick. Let's talk through the materials on the east, north, and west sides, please.
Yeah, so again, the north side at the bottom of the building, again, is this cast stone here. So that goes up to, I think, 30 inches. And then basically above that, we have brick, which is this guy here. Obviously full depth brick. And then you have, again, the horizontal siding, which is the cementitious. So that is basically from the 3rd to the 4th floor. Actually, on the north elevation, it's 3rd through 5th floor. And then we transition to the vertical siding, which is this product here. This is the color. This is what the profile is. It's a 1-foot piece, and then these are repeated, obviously. Those were consistent with what the original architect did. Again, the only changes that we made were going full depth to this versus a veneer, which is a thinner material. So we had to kind of beef up the structure in order to be able to accommodate that. But the overall aesthetic for the materiality and all that remained consistent with what it was when it was initially submitted. As you turn the corner towards Grant, again, those same materials carry around the side. And then as we kind of get closer to the garage, we end up doing, we have the split face CMU on the first floor that are all infill walls between the concrete structure. And then we transition to brick. And again, the same transitions to the horizontal siding and the vertical siding up at the top. The back is very consistent. Again, the east side, 2 floors, the upper 2 floors, vertical siding, horizontal siding from the 3rd to the 5th floor again, and then brick at the lower portions. Brick.
So the area around the entry to the garage is in brick. Is that what that is there?
It is, yeah. That is brick. Yeah. It only transitions to CMU, I believe, at the back side of the building where we infill between the concrete columns,
It's
essentially.
right there with the column. That's the CMU product.
The CMU, no, yeah, that is actually the cast stone. So all of those column wraps, all of the pilasters, things like that, are all going to be the cast stone. So it'll be a little bit bigger module. Obviously, it's closer to 8x16 than a standard brick size.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to monopolize. Any other questions, please?
Yeah, what's the material, like around the windows on the upper floor?
Cementitious trim. So it would be a same sort of hardy panel. They make a dimensional, like a 1x4 primed material that's cementitious, and then it just gets painted.
That's out into, there's a door space with windows in it.
This area.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all the cementitious. That's all the cementitious panel. This stuff right here. So you can kind of see the joints in it. It comes in like a 4x8 sheet or a 5x10 sheet, and it's basically cut to whatever dimensions we get. And then there's basically these trim profiles that you can put in between it that gives it a reveal that looks nice.
So the mass of the wall is the metal paneling, and then inside these rectangular areas, that's the.
You got it. Yeah, and then it's trimmed out with cementitious trim like that. You got it.
Jim, since
Sure.
we're looking at that elevation, it looks like on portions of the east elevation and some of the other elevations, you bring down the vertical metal siding 2 levels instead of the 1 that you have. And I was just wondering if you could explain that design to existing.
Yeah, I mean, since we sort of knew that there was an initial approval, or the initial design that was submitted by the previous architect was sort of consistent, we didn't change a lot of that massing on it or in terms of the materiality. So we didn't really say, let's bring down 2 stories here. So it's really consistent with what the original architect did. Like I said, we made some changes to the windows. We made some other minor changes, but in terms of how far we're bringing materials down, that remained consistent. I don't know why he originally had it bringing down 2 stories at the back. I mean, we could make some changes to that if you guys feel that would be a more positive change to the building. I think As we kind of step down towards the back of the building, we make a little bit of transitional changes just for interest as you're kind of transitioning to an area that doesn't, is sort of facing the parking lot. Maybe that's why they did it.
Can we see that south elevation again? When you say the back, you mean the south?
Yeah, the south one that faces, it faces an existing parking lot that will remain, correct, yeah.
Okay. I think you've given up something here by having all these windows kind of exactly the same. I think it had that little bit of modulation in there on some of those, even if they're not three sections. I get that
Yeah.
eliminating three sections.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if there were an opportunity to, lower at least maybe the double ones or something like this so that it gives it a little kind of more energy.
Yeah. Yeah, we could go back and take a look at where there were stacked units, and potentially put some of those back in. So the initial rendering should kind of show. So I think you're seeing some of them up at the top of the building there. So, yeah, you can kind of see it on that east elevation there, where there's three windows stacked on top of one another.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of changes that I was talking about.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that you would need all of that.
It seemed like a lot of windows in one
Yeah.
unit. That's kind of why we reduced it, yeah.
If you had a window like this and then next to it a window like this.
A little bit bigger window, like a single unit.
Which means lower. probably.
Right.
You don't want it.
Yeah, okay. But maybe just something that's a different size.
Three sizes to
Right.
one.
Right.
I think you would get something out of that.
Yeah, we could take a look at that. Absolutely.
Circling of the 6-story building, that shiplap siding. It. Is it like residential scale material?
I mean, they have different sizes. I believe the one that he picked was a 9-inch reveal. That was, again, the original designer's intent was to use a shiplap type siding. It is a residential, a lot of times it is used on residential buildings, but it gives you a little bit of interest. I mean, there are other siding type options, but doing something that's cementitious is going to be the most low maintenance for future. So I think that's kind of why he selected that. I mean, we could explore other materials if you think that that's something that would improve the look of it. But again, we didn't want to do that until we sort of got your feedback. This is obviously our first time coming in and presenting the project. So we sort of wanted to get, your feedback on the project to sort of see what your take is on some of these minor tweaks that we've made over the past year. So in terms of the windows, we could take a look at the windows. If you want us to explore other materials for the horizontal siding, we could take a look at that. Just obviously write it into whatever you would have in terms of conditions or whatever that may be part of that.
Are there any other comments or questions here from the group?
Okay. Please.
I think, generally it lost a little bit of playfulness from the original design. I understand that this is a great product to have downtown, affordable. Just want to, quality design for future residents, I guess. And I think maybe it lost a little bit of the playfulness with the different window sizing.
Yep.
I think the overall vision, I think Bob was on something a little bit with the scale, materials, with the type of building. But this is kind of like a subjective comment, but I think maybe they just want a little bit of it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we could take a look at that.
Just quickly wanted to say, I think that there are three details that are important to make sure that you're comfortable with to achieve that original design vision. And I think in looking at the cornice, it looks like part of the building has a very cornice that's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
But then there are other portions that don't. And I can understand the variation in the size for visual interest. But to me, that the portions that are smaller look a little too thin, and it doesn't look like the building is really capped off properly.
Okay.
So maybe look at that with portions. And I understand the variation, but I think that just looks like it's not really capped.
Okay.
And then I wasn't quite sure with the windows. I wasn't quite sure with the muntins, if those muntins have any depth to them. You said it's a vinyl window, so sometimes, of course, it's not a true muntin, but it's something that will have a shadow line to it.
Yeah, it's typically they're integrated into basically between, when it's an insulated window, they're between the panes of glass. There are other ways that they can do them. They can apply them on the outside, which would kind of make them removable. But typically when they do them in the factory, they put them inside the actual window itself. Every window manufacturer has a different type of muntins that are integrated into the window. If we would need to maybe go to something that has a little bit more width or depth or something like that, that would give it a little bit more prominence, you could take a look at that too.
Because
Okay.
it's not too expensive. I think down the line, that will give the windows more of a feeling that there's a character.
Right.
And just, some kind of variation.
Sure. Yeah.
Other thing that I think is very important is Harlan Hunter banding.
Mhm.
Just make sure that that has, when I looked at the the section cut, it didn't look like it had too much depth. And maybe enough depth that you said enough shadows.
Okay.
So that you're delineating those, breaking the bends.
Right. Right.
Because that really, I think, was one thing we liked so much, that it alludes to the classical, world ones.
Right. Right. Okay.
Classical apartment building. Just make sure that that doesn't get lost.
Sure.
I think those.
Yeah, we could definitely give it more, more stepping. I think previously, I think he had it shown as all basically cast stone with some like round profiles and things like that. So we can kind of take a look at that. Again, we were going to try to do it out of cementitious, which is a little bit lower maintenance product. But we can, do essentially whatever we need for that. It all gets framed out anyway. So we can kind of create a more prominent profile for some of those bandings to more emulate what we had originally or what they had originally.
Materials are all pretty light in color, so shadows would be important.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And we can submit a cut sheet I thought we had submitted a cut sheet on the punched windows, but we'll get that to you guys too. So you have an idea of what the manufacturer actually looks like.
I guess what I'm hearing is that I think we're gonna probably not approve this today and ask if you could come back and maybe do some of these tweaks. Is that where everybody is pretty much?
Yeah, I agree. I think the big thing for me, obviously the windows are huge. So
Huge.
the other thing for me was the railings. They're all seem like that very commercial sort of that feeling to them.
Yeah.
Institutional almost.
Mhm.
So I think, having a more of a residential type of railing with maybe lighter, something like that.
Yeah.
Just something that sort of lightens that up and doesn't make it feel so institutional.
Sure.
Where is everybody on this thing? Let's almost view this a little bit as kind of conceptual and say, what would we like to see? Because I think what we want to do is, to the extent that we can, is we want to get this thing. I know you guys, you in the large sense, have been working on this for quite a while here. So, where's everybody on this thing here? I think we're talking about some of these detail tweaks.
I think it's a great project that just a
Yeah.
little more finesse, without blowing the budget.
Yeah, and that's the, obviously we're working with the developer here and, we get VE requests obviously, but we're trying to do the best we can, obviously, to make sure that we're meeting the guidelines and all that stuff. So, I will work with them and say, look, we've got to make some of these tweaks. We're not going to get approved if we don't, and we'll do the best we can, resubmit it, make those changes and, send it back to you guys and, get back on the agenda and do what we need to do.
I'm kind of looking at your elevation drawings here too, and there's some dark patches in there, like around the base and so on at the top. I think that's good. I mean, we discussed it was alluded to, I guess, the palette here, and it's real light. I think if some of these elements are a little darker, to me, it just adds a little kind of mass to the thing.
Okay.
As opposed to being kind of a lighter monitor. And
Right.
I'm happy to consider that a personal preference. So if anybody disagrees, that's fine too. But as I'm looking at that, I think that's good where you have that corner there that's kind of prominent, it's a little darker.
Right.
And things like that. So,
Okay.
yeah, please.
To just acknowledge
and want us to be sensitive to the fact that this isn't a 9% high-tech deal I heard.
Yep.
As experiencing that is a balance that we must find in quality design that's going to last the life of the deal. And also, once they had the developer hands the deal over to the operators, there are operating expenses. So you have to be careful and cautious about what you're handing over.
Right.
How much it's going to cost to maintain it.
Right.
So I understand possibly some of the decisions.
Yeah.
Because you want it to be nice and durable, but there's
Yeah.
also this balance where you can find some like design, playfulness,
Right.
etc. We have to think about it. I'm an operator, so
Yeah, absolutely.
they do this.
Yeah, exactly. Right, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, when you look at a low income housing project, like you don't want to see a super expensive building because it's just the money should be spent elsewhere that is going to be benefiting them, not the actual thing like that. So you're right. It's a balance between the future durability, the future maintenance on the project, and the operations costs and things like that. So yeah, I agree with what you said there.
Good. Any other comments or thoughts?
Just with like using some texture and color to balance things out. I don't think, maybe not adding more windows, right? Because I don't like increase the cost, right? But I think you texture and color.
Okay.
Then do a study to.
Okay.
Okay,
Just
yeah, please, go ahead.
I would, left to my own devices, I'd remove the stone and just replace it with brick. I'm a little worried about the cost of appropriately detailing and dressing that stone in the way that really makes it look elegant and thought through. So that's my only comment here.
Okay.
Well, I guess what we're trying to do, if I'm hearing everybody, we'd like to have our cake and eat it too. And so we understand, we want to see a low income housing, right? That's wonderful, or let's call it affordable. But on the other hand, we'd love to see the best product we can get.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
You do and they do too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully, we're all in the same direction.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, comments?
I just wanted to say,
Go ahead.
I feel like everybody else does that, and the way you do too, that if you make the very thoughtful decisions now, budget conscious, thinking about, the life cycle and everything, years from now, the building will still be attractive and still be something that people want to utilize, we want to invest in, and want to be. So I think it's a great planning stage to think about all these things, and again, to try to get the best quality we can.
Right. Absolutely.
Challenges that they have in these changes.
Right. Right. Yeah, and the other part of that, one last thing, because of the funding itself, the project itself is going to be a lead silver building at the end of the day, super high efficiency, low. So, I mean, that's one other thing to add. So those terms, in terms of the windows, fenestration, all that type of stuff, that sort of affects all that in a way. But again, we'll balance it and do what we can to get what you need.
Okay, wonderful. Now, would you like us to table this and just kind of put you back here automatically? And you want to just resubmit that when you're ready to?
I mean, we could resubmit,
In a
whatever's
way,
easiest for you.
Same end result. It doesn't matter to us.
Yeah, so it would get pushed to next month. So as long as we submit everything back to you by the submission date, and then we would come back in a month and do that, or?
Yeah, I think if we table it, you're kind of automatically on the agenda for next month.
Okay.
And, so you just get you can work with the staff to get your stuff in. And,
Okay.
And again, it's really big to come in with police with samples. And we're seeing your hard materials here.
Yep.
But we'd like to see we need to see the window systems too.
Okay. Yep, I see what we can do.
I would also recommend bringing owner.
Sure, I can do
I
that.
think that was very helpful to our earlier discussion.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
What do you want to be tabled, then? Do you want us to table you, or do you want to you can work it out with staff?
Yeah, I mean, whatever your recommendation is, obviously we were hoping to come in and get an approval with conditions or whatever, but it sounds like there's some tweaks we need to make prior to that happening. So,
why don't you just work it out with us?
Yeah, we'll work it out with them and get you guys a revised.
Up here next month. then.
Perfect.
And
Okay.
if not, it'll be whenever you're ready.
Yeah, we would definitely want to get on next month's
And we
agenda.
know you
So,
want to move quickly. So
Yeah,
We'll
yep.
help you do that.
all right, perfect.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks.
We
we still need a motion to do that, so a motion to continue this.
I am not hearing that they want to be, that they want to be tabled.
I don't think, I don't think we want
Yeah.
that
Right.
term applied, but yeah.
They're just gonna take. I don't see any reason, I don't know what action we would take. I think we just, they should.
Yeah, I say motion to continue, we'll just
There you go.
say they can come back with us whenever they're.
I don't know that we've ever done that.
I'll make a motion to continue.
Is there a- I'm gonna-
Motion to continue. I love it.
And all those in favor, aye. Continue. Hey, thanks very much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, could we have the next case now?
I apologize, we do motions to continue and we're intervening frequently.
Okay, that's fine. You're in charge of procedure.
All right. All right, our next case is COA 24-00524 or 20 to 24 East Gay Street, which is located at the northwest corner of Gay and Pearl Streets. The applicant is seeking commission approval to remove, refurbish, and replace existing awnings, alter ground floor storefront bays at 22 and 24 East Gay Street, and remove glass block windows on Pearl Alley and replace with windows to match the existing above. A railing at door configuration is to be added to the second level window to match the existing window. Stone veneer and existing stone base is to be removed at 22 and 24 East Gay Street, and new storefronts are to match the existing at 20 East Gay Street. The applicant noted that the existing stone is not original to the building as noted by the historic photograph. Submitted materials include a site plan, existing site photos, exterior elevations, a floor plan, storefront cut sheets, window drawings, and a historic photograph of the building. Quickly, here is the existing condition or existing condition photos. So you can see the storefront at 20 will remain, and then 22 and 24 will be modified. And then here are the modifications along Pearl Alley. You see the glass block windows to be removed. And then here as well with the railing added. Here's the site. And then this is showing the modified storefronts opened up to match what is at 20. And here are the windows, and then the window with the railing on the second story.
Okay, very good. Would you identify yourself for the record then?
Tom Morano from the Edwards Companies.
Could you raise your right hand? You swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So say I do.
I do.
Thank you. Okay, why don't you walk us through what we're looking at here? Although I think your drawings and diagrams have been pretty explanatory.
Good. Yeah, so this is the Ruggery Building. Sits on the corner of Gay Street and Pearl Alley. I guess it would be the northwest corner. And so what we're planning on doing is upgrading the streetscape to replace two of the storefront systems at 22 and 24 East Gay. And then the one that turns the corner on Pearl Alley, and a couple windows that have glass block, been infilled with glass block with windows to match above. There's an existing tenant on the ground floor in the corner, and they're being relocated. And so we're going to upgrade the storefronts to be more transparent for hopefully getting a retailer or another tenant that will kind of drive more foot traffic on Gay Street. The existing storefront that's on the screen at 20, that under the awning that says 20, that was approved by the commission in 2015 and replaced. And so the goal is to just take the other storefronts and match that.
Will you have the stone piece under the bottom of the windows then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, an exact match. The stone already.
That's not an original feature of the.
No. Actually, all of the limestone that you see on the base, even the tall columns, that's not original to the building. If you look at that historic photo, it was all brick. But sometime in the 20s, maybe it was renovated to, Don thinks it may have been a bank. And that's when they put the limestone on.
Okay.
I'm just curious, what is your feeling about that? Because the limestone is attractive as the pilasters, but also there could be an argument to remove it and restore to the original brick. I'm just curious what you think.
I mean, I like the limestone. I think it's kind of a feature now. And the building adjacent to it, as you go further west, is all limestone, which is where Chouette is. But the other thing I don't know is there's no way to know what condition the brick is behind it. They could have destroyed it to put that. Might be. Yeah, absolutely.
I like it a lot, and it's funny because usually when something has been, changed from the original.
Right.
Want to go back to the original, but I think here.
But sometimes when things are additive, if they're done in a thoughtful way, it's, it kind of tells a story and becomes even more interesting than what was originally.
How long has that been there, just for curiosity? Do you have any sense?
Don's here, the owner. I'm not sure.
He brought an owner with you?
I did,
Um,
reluctantly.
Okay, so the window units, what are they? What are they?
Those are an aluminum clad
Tube
window.
light thermal, is that the brand name?
Yeah, well, tube light is the forefront. The windows, the individual windows on Pearl are crystal,
Okay,
but it's an aluminum clad window.
and they're black.
They're all black.
Okay, got any questions, comments, anything from the group? There's a motion to approve. There's a second. Comments, questions, anything from the audience? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, case please.
The next case on our agenda is COA 24-00581 for 230 Cleveland Avenue, which is located at the corner of Cleveland Avenue and Spring Street on what is currently a surface parking lot of the Columbus State Community College campus. The applicant is seeking commission approval to construct a new 80,000 square foot health sciences building situated on a portion of the current parking lot. Sites include landscaping and outdoor seating areas, and exterior materials include metal panels, base brick, and curtain wall. Submitted materials today include existing condition site plan and photos, site plans, parking lot, pool lighting details, landscape plan, floor plans, roof plan, elevations, renderings, section, building details, and material cut sheets. The downtown design guidelines state that downtown's built environment continue to be enhanced and energized with new buildings and additions to existing structures that promote good design, long-lasting building construction and materials, and attention to detail, especially at the street level. The guidelines recommend that new construction be influenced by the pattern of nearby contributing buildings. They also recommend high-quality materials, ground floor transparency, lighting that minimizes uplighting, and the inclusion of landscaping and plaza space. The proposal is consistent with the downtown design guidelines. Here are the materials submitted. Spare rendering. Here is the existing site. You can see the corner of Cleveland and Spring, surface parking, existing condition site photos. Here is the proposed site plan, the building situated in the corner. We do have a photometric plan for the lighting. Details on those pole lights. Here is the proposed landscaping plan. You can see an event lawn here and patio space, primary entry along Cleveland. Some rendering imagery. We have the landscaping plan. And here's the planning diagram for the building. Architectural site plan. And then we get into the floor plans for the building. The first floor, second floor, third floor, and then the roof plan was provided as well. And then we have the elevations. This is the east elevation, north, south, west, perspectives. And then we have our building sections and the details. And then I also have the two here behind the scene. We have the cut sheets for the materials there for quoting. We can go through these in detail if you have any specific questions for our applicant. And with that, that is all I have.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. I'll
Yes.
recuse.
Okay, good. I was just gonna ask you. We'll miss you, but that's fine. And by the way, this case is for approval today. We have not seen it before, but it is for approval. Could you identify yourselves for the record, please?
Sure.
Sure, I'm Hannah Awari, project architect of Moody Nolan.
I'm Brian Sell, project designer with Moody Nolan.
Great. Could you raise your right hands?
Yeah.
You swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So say I do.
I
I
do.
do.
Thank you very much. Is anybody here from the owner then, by the way?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's go ahead. We have not seen this. You're here for approval.
Mhm.
And so let's walk through it. We got a lot of stuff to kind of look at, I guess. I'll let you guys go ahead and take it from here then. Please.
Sure, and yes, you're correct. So this is the first time, so we wanted to sort of give you an introduction to this project and sort of the back history to this. So this building is a response to the shortage and demand within the Columbus network for healthcare professionals. So this building directly is a health science building on the Columbus State Community College campus. As you saw in the drawings, this is on the corner of Spring and Cleveland, right in the southwest corner of the campus. It's directly south of Mitchell Hall, so it'll have a connection back to Mitchell Hall as well. It's an existing parking lot that'll sit right there on the corner of the street. The program itself will include different fields for the college, so nursing, surgical technology, medical imaging, respiratory therapy, sterile processing. They have a strategy over the next 10 years to double enrollment. This building is a direct response for doubling enrollment and providing that education to the students.
For what?
Double enrollment over the next 10 years for these programs. Mhm. To enable this strategy, we're seeing this building here today. It will be 80,000 square feet, classroom and laboratory space. They will be also partnering with other local community healthcare providers as well. This is a direct connection, obviously being Columbus Community College, the connection with the community and the partners is very, very key and instrumental. So we can look through the different photographs here. If
Now,
we
if
could,
I'm looking at these elevation drawings, it looks like the entire exterior of the building is brick, right? Two different colors, but all brick.
Correct.
correct.
Thank you.
Just a little bit about the site itself. So it is an existing parking lot. Like we said, Mitchell Hall to the north. The proposed building sits at the corner. If we could go to the landscape plan or the site plan. Maybe the landscape one itself. That's kind of a couple more.
Yeah.
That one as well. This one is a good one to see. We have sort of the orange colors. There's two main entries to the east and to the west. The west is creating that connection to Cleveland Avenue. The one to the east is creating a connection to the students that are coming from campus or the parking lot to the east. We're also making the connection in the northeast corner to make a safer connection for students walking across at a diagonal from the buildings to the north. In the lighter brown colors, you're seeing two patios, making that connection to the community at large, and you're seeing the connection to the north to Mitchell Hall. All entries are accessible. You're seeing modifications to the parking as well to the east. We're meeting parking counts. There will be EV proposed connections, biking as well. Noted there to the east is an event parking, event lawn space. This is that connection with community partners that could come in and serve the community and the students as well. So from a site perspective, that's
Yeah, really.
high level.
Right. And as far as the site design and those kind of external forces pushing on from the outside in, it was really important to have these sort of two front doors, right? Two equally sort of important doors on Cleveland Avenue, but also back towards the campus. And the future master plan of that will have that east side being, multiple buildings will start to grow down Spring Street, and there will be a green established where you sort of see that diagonal cow path moving. And there is a really important connection to an existing building, Union Hall, which is where the nursing school happens to be, and all the faculty will remain, faculty offices. So that sort of cow path is definitely a beaten path in connecting those two buildings. So that's very important sort of access and has played into the orientation of the building in general. And also Hannah mentioned the event lawn, that community space is really important that is on that southeast corner there. You see that larger green space. And actually, sort of the multi-use purpose of that is to and have some adjacent parking as to food trucks, blood drives, community fairs and flea markets and things like that can happen there. So there is, every time we want to really engage the sidewalk, engage the pedestrian movement, we have a porch. And so those diagrams that we had in this set actually kind of show how those external forces kind of pushed on the building to create the architecture that you see, but also the interior programming and this desire for this to be, we'll talk a lot about Mitchell in Mitchell Hall and our relationship with Mitchell Hall. They wanted a strong relationship to Mitchell Hall. And that is because that has proven, the atrium of that space has proven to be a very sort of a student center type of feature to Columbus State. And so they want this building to as well become a student center for the health sciences. I think we could go through these slides.
Back more than the Mitchell Hall is there from the street?
Actually, it is not. What you're seeing is there's a very light dashed line, which is the overhang. There is a porch, so the building is kind of pushed back. Yes, that line matches up with the face of Mitchell Hall.
Oh, I see, it sticks out.
Yeah, yeah. And you can kind of see that in the perspective. We really wanted to align those buildings in their general masses. Mitchell Hall does.
Alluded to master plan, but you haven't shown us how this building and the future work together with the master plan. You've alluded to connections to Mitchell Hall, but you're not showing us anything about Mitchell Hall. You're presenting this as though it's a building on farm field, so, and it's not. It's part of a very important part of our downtown, the campus. And we've been working with Columbus State since before it was called Columbus State. Their expansion plans and their attempt to create a really great downtown campus, which they've done.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm failing to see how this building fits into all that because it's just a funny shape on the corner.
And I think that's where the diagrams, if you wanted to go to those planning diagrams.
You're showing us this building and its entrances and so forth. You're not showing us how this fits into the urban setting of this great campus.
Right, as the most important, I think, geometry, sort of talking to the geometry, is that middle diagram where the building, we wanted to sort of, allow there to be this atrium inside the building, so open up the interior. But this new geometry is that of Spring Street, right? The future development of buildings will orient themselves to Spring Street. So that's what's missing in there, is the future possible buildings that start to align with that.
And the different movements are also responding to that campus connection that we had. Thank you for showing that one. So it's tilted in a way to relate to the other nursing programs, and the connection back to this new building is responding to Spring Street to the south, and then aligning to Mitchell Hall to the west along Cleveland.
I'm wondering a little bit about, when I look at the campus there, I mean, you were talking about integrating and everything. I'm wondering, is there an attempt to kind of fit in with some of the other architecture that's there now? We've got the older stuff north of, I can't remember what street that is, at Bergen Avenue there. And then you got Mitchell Hall. But then this is kind of a different kind of thing. Are you doing that consciously? I mean, that is part of what you're trying to get to, that each of these are kind of is a different building and feels different, looks different, or is there some kind of a thought out there to kind of do it again?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not seeing.
Yeah, there's been discussions about this being sort of a gateway corner. We know this is heavy pedestrian, but also heavy commuter connection. So making those intentional moves to those that are coming as a commuter and parking and entering the site, but also how does that sit as a gateway for the campus on that southwest corner?
Well, is the idea then that newer buildings going on would be kind of, would fit in with this more, or is?
No.
You see what I'm saying? I look
Yeah, no,
at this building and I look at that, well, they don't necessarily. Well, we don't need to do copies on the suggesting that, but
Right.
right.
it's some kind of relation that sounds like that might be.
Mhm.
You talked about, master plan or the campus. Has that ever been presented relative to this building and to Mitchell Hall? Because I think that would be helpful to understand.
We have, but it's been some time.
Yeah.
Since we thought it was probably.
We now have a new, economic director who is in that area, came from Whitehall. Zach. Woodruff. So we said that the owner is here today.
Correct. Yes.
I mean, is there something that they could tell us that would really assist us in understanding the complementary aspects of Mitchell Hall in this building, as well as what the future is? Because Columbus State has a lot of parking lots.
And we're all in favor. Would you like to join us? I'd be happy to. Sure, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, bring it, Sharon. Can I ask you to identify yourself for the record, please?
Absolutely. Kieran Sherry, Executive Director of Planning, Design, and Construction for Columbus State.
Great. Can you raise your right hand? You swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So say I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. Okay, so
I'll be happy to address your question if I may. If you want to go back to a broader site plan for the campus.
do we have that? Was that submitted with, okay.
So I've been with Columbus State since May. So I'm still on the learning curve, but I'm happy to share where we are philosophically. You talk about a master plan. Candidly, Columbus State has done a number of master plans over the years, and they've struggled, frankly, to implement them. So let me talk about what's currently on the radar in terms of the work that I'm doing with partnering with Zach in terms of how the campus is going to evolve over time. So first of all, to some of the questions and some of the commentary, because we had this conversation internally, there are many different fits and finishes for the existing buildings on campus. There's not a consistency or cohesiveness across the buildings on campus today because they all were built in different eras with different architects and so forth. So it's a mishmash. There was a lot of intentionality with this building on this corner because, as Hannah points out, this is really a pivotal corner for the campus, both present and future. The Spring and Cleveland intersection is a significant entry point for folks coming to campus. The brick exterior, the metal panel, the window treatments, et cetera, were frankly mirrored after the design motif for Mitchell. Yes, a different colorway and a lighter, brighter colorway, but similar to the design spec for Mitchell Hall. To your comment about parking lots, there is a lot of discussion about future developments around campus. Candidly, most of them are not going to be directly for Columbus State, but they are going to be addressing parking lots. You may be aware of the proposed WODA development that's being specified for Spring Street. There is also a lot of conversations about what might happen in the future across the street on south of Spring Street, a multi-use development that would absorb that significant parking spot below, would likely include a building for servicing Columbus State amongst many other items. But this hard corner where this building will sit is still going to be the pivotal entry point to campus. And so the palette is intentional to be lighter, brighter, and sort of create a beacon at that corner. Over the next number of years, what you'll see is many of those surrounding parking lots west of Cleveland, south of Spring, will start to get redeveloped for multi-use purposes, and less of the parking spaces will exist into the future. So I hope that helps put some context to it. I will add too that, we talked about the fact that this is specifically for health sciences. The rest of the health sciences happens in Union Hall, which is diagonally past Mitchell Hall. So that diagonal line of traffic across campus to Union Hall is particularly important. All of the faculty that will teach future students in this building will still office in Union Hall. So there's going to be a huge amount of diagonal traffic across campus for folks coming to this building. I will also add that we purposely put general classrooms on the third floor of this building. The idea is we want not only health sciences students in this building, we want other students on campus to come and experience the building and get excited about health sciences career and potentially change their majors by their experience that happens in this building. So that diagonal artery back to the heart of campus and what we affectionately call the oval is a critical alignment piece for this building. I hope that helps.
Do you have a plan, updated plan for the campus? I
We
mean, you're
have-
telling we're gonna, and by the way, we discussed the whole thing here, that obviously the surface parking lots that everybody knew and understood were going to go away, which is over time, which is wonderful. But have you updated a plan, or do you have one? And maybe, I mean, maybe you're going one at a time.
Yeah, I would say it's more one at a time and it's in process, right? As opportunities come up. But I would say the broader direction is that most of the academic activities for Columbus State are going to be migrating to east of Cleveland Avenue. And there will be significant future developments west of Cleveland Avenue and south of Spring Street. That's kind of the macro direction that the college wants. Not for solely for Columbus State use, but other creative uses, so that many of those parking lots and others are doing this around us as well. And indeed, one of the projects earlier was pretty close. But I think that's what's happening in that general area over time.
Do you have a thought or a scheme for kind of when and I understand where we've looked at these buildings, by the way, running down the line, well, as long as we've been doing, since the downtown commission has been here, and you've looked at a number of these that you've done, and including your library bookstore and even Nestor Hall there. But at any rate, is there any kind of thought about trying to make the buildings look so that when it's look like a campus where they're somewhat coordinated, and maybe you're trying to do that on this one? I think. Is there a thought about that? Because I think you might get something out of that. Without, again, I'm not saying a cookie cutter, because I wouldn't either want that, but I'm just wondering if you give thought to that.
So we have a lot of conversations around paths of travel, the intuitive activity of a student. How do they know how to get from one place to the other? But I don't think we have the appetite to reskin the building so they all start to look equivalent. But I think we can do a lot of work with.
As you proceed, because you're going to be doing more buildings, I would assume.
We're going to be doing a lot more renovations of existing buildings. I don't anticipate beyond this one and potentially one south of Spring. I'm not anticipating a whole lot of new construction. What I am anticipating is a lot of renovation of existing space, and then with third parties, redevelopment of some of the parking lots and other occupancies west of Cleveland, south of Spring.
You know, I guess this question is going to be very unfair. Because I will go to Ohio State. And so, you know, our master planning, particularly when we go through framework 1, 2, and 3, it's not, let's say, concurrent as far as what it's going to be, but there are ideas of what it can be.
Right.
When you think about Columbus State and you think about the connectivity 2-year, 4-year, 2+2, and you look at what are some of the emerging businesses that you all are, let's say, training individuals to, you know, actually obtain with certifications. You know, you think about what's happening with the chip industry, you think what's happening with batteries, you think about what you're doing with automotive. You think about logistics. And so I'm asking that because I see a campus and I'm thinking, when you're looking at your master plan, are you looking at it according to what are the opportunities, particularly from a workforce development standpoint and increasing your student population in different strategic areas or therefore buildings? You did it with Mitchell. You are doing it with, you're doing it with your health science academies or your health science with Ohio Health. So I'm asking, are you looking at those other types of partnerships? Because that would help with alignment of what is happening around campus, particularly with all of the different opportunities you have with your inputs. I mean, it's just hard right now to look at this and say, I understand you want to bring brightness to that corner, but it also would be helpful to understand what your plans are for the future, because in the future, they're going to be coming back to us again.
So I'll offer a couple of comments. You are correct. We are not like OSU. There's just, the worlds are just totally different in terms of scale and size and scope and opportunity. But I would offer this building proposal is directly in response to what I think Columbus State is really good at, and that is anticipating what the workforce needs are in Central Ohio. We're trying to double the output of our health sciences graduates into the future. You mentioned automotive. We're in the process of working on a project to double our automotive capacity on campus without building a new building. We are talking about advanced technology. We've done several renovations to expand our engineering technology capabilities within existing buildings on the campus. I think it's important to note that, you know, new opportunities, new workforce needs don't necessarily have to beget new buildings. This is a good example of where it does, but there's a lot of other work going on the campus to allow us to put more throughput into those programs that are needed to grow the workforce in growing areas in the economy.
Okay, no, go ahead. What I was gonna do at some point in time, what I'd like you to do is walk through the rest of the materials we need the break, and then show us what the windows are, show us what, it looks like metal panels. Show us what those are.
Explain the design.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love to. So the response
I'm
to,
gonna let everybody ask questions here in just a second.
yeah, I mean, to carry on where this is like architecturally, this is really driven from a study of Mitchell Hall and the success at Mitchell Hall, right? So like Mitchell Hall, we have punched opening, all brick building, two-tone brick, sort of a field brick and an accent brick. Those accents revolve around the windows. In Mitchell Hall, it's floor to ceiling window openings with an accent brick. Unlike Mitchell Hall, we have floor to ceiling windows, but they're in a very regularized pattern because of our simulation labs. So a little more structured fenestration. And we want this 1 inch, there's a 1 inch offset in the brick, so a shadow line and a contrast. And we did many studies. One things that we emulate on Mitchell Hall is that accent brick is there is another material used in Mitchell Hall, which is a metal, right? So anytime we push in the building, we carve into the building with the porches or the terraces that you see, those outside spaces are critically important to this program and to the student collaboration spaces that happen inside. That becomes metal. Unlike Mitchell Hall, we went with a warmer metal finish. We have toyed with wood, something a little more wellness oriented, but we wanted it to be a natural material. And so we're picking a warm metal finish that you see here. And it, coordinates with that accent brick. So that patterning you see is all the detailing and the window systems, and then the windows themselves, the framing of the windows themselves is that metal color. So
where we see orange up here.
Right.
It's that color.
It's this color. Yeah, it's a little saturated on the screen, so it's a little strong.
Okay. I like that better.
Yeah,
So do I.
Yes, exactly. That's why this is. Exactly. And so really, and you see the mortar colors here as well, embedded within the two bricks. So this is it. This is the palette.
Yeah.
These two bricks and one metal color.
And the column color covers, any of the soffits are all going to be the same metal as well.
I like the color palette very much. I'm just wondering, and maybe this is a good thing, in this rendering, you really do see a clear delineation between the metal and the brick. But I wonder, maybe when they actually, when it's actually built, because of how light will hit it, you will see, it will be very clear that there is a difference, because you're using the different materials, and that gives it texture and character and interest. And I'm just wondering, because the color of that darker brick and the metal panel are so close, if that's going to read, as two different materials, or if you don't, if you want it to look more monolithic. I'm just curious about that.
Mhm. That's good feedback.
And I would, if we could, this is the sort of east elevation, the campus sort of entry side. And if we could go to the Cleveland Avenue, where the core was on that sort of side. So we had some blank wall. This is actually the Cleveland Avenue side. So you can somewhat see where some of that random brick accent, actually makes sense here as it's, accommodates windows.
I like this side better because it's a little bit less of a white brick. Should be on the other sides to reduce it a little bit. You made a big deal that in the diagrams about entry. When I look at this, I'm not sure where the entry is. Is it where the extra glass is there on the second floor?
Mhm.
You consider it all bringing that down, breaking that horizontal so that you don't have to have a sign that says entry?
We actually had studies, so if you go to back one to the sort of north and south, so you can kind of see here on north and south elevations, that break in the brick, that was actually a original entry design, and we sort of wanted a little more continuous look to it, but yes, we can kind of, this marks the sort of major the hallway, and then those collaboration spaces, which are critically important to the building and the planning.
This is not a major entry to the building.
This is not,
Yeah.
right.
Just struggling a little bit.
It does tie to a porch, but yeah, right.
I had a similar concern, because right where you have the major entry, there's a very large overhang. And I don't know in terms of, and then, there's an overhang for that, going across to traveling line. I'm just not sure, what it's going to read, if that's just gonna look dark, cavernous, or if there are some strategies that you can use with lighting or other techniques, or with the glazing you choose, or, I don't know, to make this look more accessible, because again, you're saying this is going to be a very beautiful iconic building, and you want people to come in to it, even people that might not have classes, people that want to explore what's there. And I don't, I think that entry point needs to be something that does seem really accessible. And so it's just something I think to think about, if you feel that this rendering depicts what that would actually look like. Or, if you feel there are strategies of way to make a more prominent entry, but not compromising your design and concept.
Right. I think a key part of that too is that landscape connection as well. There's like ramps and stairs that are bringing you to the lighting that you were mentioning as well.
You have the monumental stair, and maybe there's a way to beautifully light that. Be dramatic. Into the building.
Mhm.
Have you submitted a lighting plan as well? And this is your landscape plan.
Yeah, there's a photometric plan as well.
Parking lot, but okay.
Yes, the photometric plan. So we're utilizing existing lights, existing pole lights to the west and the south, and then obviously into the parking lot that you're seeing. The pole light that we submitted in this packet as well is for the pedestrian pieces that we're seeing on this plan. All cuts into the building for those overhangs, those will all be lighted, and we're seeing that here as well.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Mhm. There are no sconces or anything on the exterior of the building, keeping that clean.
Any questions for the applicant? Any comments from anybody?
I have another comment, it has to do with the landscaping. That, I guess that's the southwest corner. It looks like you have perennials there, and beautiful, colorful flowers. And I'm wondering how that would look in the winter months, because like you said, this is a very prominent building, this is a very prominent corner intersection. And I think that finding that edge in a way that, all year round, looking pages is important. It looks beautiful in the rendering, but I'm just wondering, other times of years, how will that be? Will that, look unkempt? Will it just be brown? What will it be?
Feels like a suburban answer for the corner. Jeff, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just, I'm not an architect, but I think the building can be resolved. I personally don't like creating brick in the Midwest, but, I'll leave that aside. I think if I were given this site, I would have pushed the building out towards the street a little so that the building addressed the street like Mitchell Hall. And then put the bulk of the landscape on the campus side, on the interior, so that you can create a bigger event lawn, a mini quad, something like that. I think, there's a lot of interesting architectural things happening here, the way the angles address the street grid and all that. I appreciate all that. But I feel like the building is just floating in the site a little bit, as opposed to addressing the city on the street side and creating more usable campus space on the interior. That's my first impression.
And we're actually pretty pinched from a site perspective for right-of-way lines and existing utilities in those spaces. So the south is almost to where it can be, and the west, I'm pretty sure it's pretty close as well.
You mean, what you mean there
What do you
there are
mean?
utilities in this grass?
There's gonna be proposed utilities.
Oh.
That need to connect to existing. So we don't want those under the building. So we're managing the line of the building, aligning to Mitchell, following Cleveland, and getting those storm pipes there.
It's look like it's a line.
Right, because of the overhang.
Oh,
Yeah.
Line on there. That's what I asked a long time. See that line up, look to the north.
Yeah.
That line's there.
The
Yeah.
face,
The first floor is smaller than the second floor, and that came about as a programming decision because we want to get all of the nursing functionality on one floor.
Sure.
And the best way for us to do that was to do it on two, and that created two opportunities for the design. One, it created porches on the first floor, but it also created terraces on the third floor. So that was a key driver from a functional perspective.
But the second floor lines up with the.
Mitchell frontage.
See, west-
Can we go to perspective?
yeah,
It's just hard to see. But okay, well, where are we today? What's the pleasure? We have a request for approvals that people want. What are we going to do?
I still like to see better how it fits into the campus. We're still looking.
And I feel the same way. I feel like we were saying, this is really the last major building that you'll be building on campus for a while in building. And it seems like it's very important in terms of how it's going to engage the, the campus and the urban streets. And although I like the building very much, I would love to see it in its context, because I feel that I'm making comments or looking at it or potentially improving it without really understanding or trying to understand what these things look like in my head and not seeing them clearly. So that's my feeling about it. I feel like I don't have all the information to comment effectively, to make comments that really are meaningful, or to make a decision that's meaningful, because I don't have the building with me in context.
Motion to continue.
Okay. There is a motion. Is there a second for that? So there's a second. At this point, I guess what we want to do is, there is a motion to continue, so I want to just, what would you folks like to do? Do you want to come back next month and do that? I mean, we can vote on it today if you want to, but it sounds to me like there's some openness, so to say. That would be up to you, or we can come back and meet again next month and perhaps have maybe redefine some of these questions, so on that relate to the site and the plan, overall plan and so on. What would you like to do here?
I mean, we want to be responsive to the committee's needs. I mean, we are happy to come back and bring you more visuals that show how this relates to its neighborhood. It's one corner of campus. We don't control what happens on 3 of the other corners, but we're more than happy to bring back imagery that shows you how we believe this fits in with the broader campus plans and how it fits within the neighborhood.
I think that would be very, very helpful.
Okay.
Okay, if that's the case, anything else from the audience then, from anybody? Questions or comments from this group?
It's an exciting project. It's really.
Yeah, no, it's good.
We just want to make sure we understand how it fits in and everything.
I wouldn't take what Jeff said too lightly either. Like, I don't think I'd support the way it sits on the site right now and how it's oriented. I don't think feeds to what I think we're all asking for, the framework and creating more of a campus environment. I think what Jeff said, take it to heart.
Okay, other comments? All those in favor of continuing? Aye. Aye, those opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Come back.
I don't understand. I just. Maybe there's something that's. That's all.
Yeah.
You see.
Way better.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
The next case is COA 24-00583 for 96 Columbus Crew Way. This is home to the Columbus Crew Soccer Stadium. The applicant is seeking commission approval to expand the stadium in 2 areas. First, a 2-story addition to the east side of the stadium at the upper concourse level to create a club space. The addition is above the loading dock parking lot and will match existing building material and design of the existing stadium. Exterior materials include dark metal panel, gray fiber cement board, black storefront window frame system, and dark gray black split face CMU. The second piece is an expansion of the interior terraces on the north end of the stadium. The 2 terraces are concrete floors with new restroom and kitchen areas within the stadium footprint. Each level will match the materials of the rest of the building. The terrace expansions will be visible from the northwest entrance. Submitted materials include a site plan, overall plans, existing site photos, floor plans, enlarged floor plans, elevations, sections, building materials, renderings, and material cut sheets. The downtown design guidelines state the downtown's built environment continue to be enhanced and energized with new buildings and additions to existing structures that promote good design, long-lasting building construction and materials, and attention to detail, especially at the street level. The guidelines recommend that new construction be influenced by the pattern of nearby contributing buildings and that high-quality material be used. This proposal is consistent with the downtown design guidelines, and we'll go through the materials here. This is showing where the East Club addition will be. And then you can see here, this is the section where the upper terraces will be expanded. This is existing condition photos. This is that loading dock area. This is the terrace area. Start with the upper club expansion. Again, that's here, above the loading dock parking area. This is the floor plan of that space and how it connects to the existing building. We provided elevations for this space as well as the material palette. And then they provided sections. Sections. And here are the renderings of this space once completed. And here is the materials for the upper and lower terrace expansion. Again, that is here. You can see the space is being added. Materials. Your building sections for this portion as well. And then it's probably showing up a little dark on the computer screen. You should be able to see it on your Kindles. This is the existing, and then this is how that space will be infilled with the terrace expansions. The renderings. And then we have details of the materials if you have any specific questions for me.
Great, very good. Would you identify yourselves for Brett?
Yeah, Phil Dangerfield, representing Haslam Sports Group and the crew.
Kevin Kramer, the project architect for O Sports.
Jason Rodebeck, Independence Construction.
Would you raise your right hands? Do you swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So say I do.
I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. Why don't you walk us through this? It seems fairly straightforward. I mean, just catch us up real quick, and then if anybody has a question, we'll ask some questions. So, thanks.
Yeah, just, first of all, it's exciting to be back in front of you guys after just opening the building in 2021. Since that time, the building's been recognized locally and nationally, architecturally, and as, a premier sports venue in the US. I think a couple things with the projects that we're looking at today. One is, they really are in response to demand that we're seeing from our fans of what they want in terms of fan amenities. And two, it was core to selecting these projects was maintaining the design intent of the building. And I think we've done that. So with that, I'll let these guys speak and really present the project, but thank you for hearing our case.
Sure, yeah. Thanks, Phil. So again, it's two different portions of the building. One being on the exterior and one on the interior. The East Club addition has more sort of the prominent from the addition from the exterior. We really try to keep this separated and really value and respect the intention of the original building with that exterior skin. The intention was not to try to touch it or to alter it in any way, but respectfully place this addition in a way that is appropriate for those upper concourse centerline seats that would be using this club space, as well as materials and really the respect of the building. All the materials we're using are existing materials in the building. The cement board and the burnished block here were really important to the restroom spaces on the first floor. So we're doing that again in the upper and lower terraces as well. Both the upper and the lower terraces, we're providing different size suites. For the upper terrace, there's a handful of 8-person suites and then two 16-person suites. And those we're providing sort of a loge box style. And then on the lower terrace, we're adding a bowl section similar to the upper deck seating section. And those seats will then have access to food service and amenities then on that floor as well, which is 2 restrooms and a kitchen space. So you can see.
These 2 stories or 1 story? I think they were just 1.
It's 2. So currently there's 2 decks above the north deck on the north end, and we're expanding those into the northwest corner.
Okay, so on the inside of the facility, you'll be able to look over the field. Is that the idea then?
From the terraces, you'll look down onto the field.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So we're looking at really pretty much the exterior view of it.
yes.
When we're, that's right, we've been looking, okay.
I have a question about
Sure.
this plan here. So on the diagonal corner there is the material for the exterior portion. Is that the windscreen?
It is,
And
yes,
then as you turn the corner, that becomes the masonry?
yes,
And
correct.
with the windscreen, I don't remember like from the original building. Is that something where you're able to look out and the intention through the windscreen is to get natural light?
The windscreen is purely to protect from the wind, so there's no perforations or views out from that corner. You have the backside of the skin there anyways, so you wouldn't have a lot of view from the terraces. They're tucked up high under the canopy.
So
Yeah.
that, what we see there in that corner, that diagonal corner, that's going to be something solid where you're not.
Yes. Correct.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
The first level, you have a number of columns just for the new structure. And is that, I'm just looking at all those columns, but is there any concern with how that space functions now and how you would have to work around that with the columns, or that's not an issue?
It is, it's a big design concern for us, and on this, and actually on this plan, the one we submitted last month, we've since removed 3 of those columns. So it's a clearer space. There's a bar that sits up against the backside of that lower bowl seating area. Yeah, there's a bar right there. So those columns will actually be built into the bar space, so they won't interfere with traffic. But no, we've analyzed, there's columns that kind of run down the middle of the concourses on both sides, so it's there's a balance we were playing about where those go.
We're able to look at it and eliminate some, integrate some into the bars.
Yeah.
Other questions? Comments? Anything from the audience? We have a motion to approve. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great facility. Yeah, that's my.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Just have to be bargain recused or just step out?
Just step out.
Oh, just want to make sure we have it for the record.
Trudy, she left.
Oh, that's.
I don't think she does great either. Yeah. She not.
Lose your pen?
No, that's.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll be the step. So that we're form, we only need, so I think she can go. Yeah.
So I'll say to you, have a good one. Have fun, have reverse tomorrow.
Wait.
Okay, go ahead, let's do this.
Okay. Our last application is COA 24-00574 for 59 Spruce Street. This is located on the block bounded by some Spruce Street, North Wall Street, and Vine Street, directly east of the existing North Market. The applicant is seeking conceptual feedback from the commission to install 2 LED illuminated roof signs on the building's north and south elevations respectively. The signs will measure approximately 53 foot wide by 26 foot tall and be mounted to steel framing, which will be attached to the elevator overrun at the top of the tower above the roof line. The application is also within the North Market Historic District and is under concurrent review by the Historic Resources Commission. Submitted materials include renderings, a site plan, sign details, section details, mounting details, and elevations. The downtown design guidelines do not have specific recommendations for rooftop signs. However, they recommend that corporate tower and skyline signs identify the name of a building or major tenant, and that the signs are proportional to the building height and mass, as well as compatible with the building architecture. The proposed graphic is consistent with the downtown design guidelines. And here are the materials. See in this rendering, the sign here. See the sign will be located on either side of the building. Here is the detail of the sign with the dimensions of the lettering. The power supply. Mounting details. And then again here, dimensions. And that is it for this package.
All right, and could you identify yourselves for the record, please?
Daniel Ayers, MBBJ Architects.
Julie Brownfield with RBHD, owner representative.
Would you raise your right hands? You swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, nothing but the truth, so say I do.
I do.
Thank you very much.
Well, we're excited to be here, for sure. So as you guys have seen, hopefully out on the site, we're continuing to move along during construction. We're presenting today, going through our marquee at the top of the tower. We're not reviewing the rest of the signage. The main reason for this being earlier and separate is given the crane time and able to get it approved, fabricated, and installed. So looking for review today on the marquee sign. So really, the opportunity that we see here with the building, I think going along with the guidelines for downtown, the ability to identify the project with the signage on the rooftop, along with the concept around this was really more of a historic approach to it. It's a LED sign, but it's to look like neon, and that ties back to that kind of harken of the old school signage. We looked at the dispatch sign, and then looked at the scale signs around Columbus just to see how it fits in. And each of the letters, the and building being 8-foot, 7-foot letters, and then 9-foot letters for the merchant in the middle. That fits with most of the rest of the signage that's in and around that you would see around town. The new Hilton sign and others are very similar in size and scale. Fits well at the top of the tower. And then you see we provided, if you go back one slide, or two slides to views from around town. Wanted to give a sense of what it's like from 670, how you're coming down, up and down High Street, and how it would be represented on the building.
And you have, these are basically two, one faces north, one faces south.
Correct.
Okay. That would be all you would be doing on top of the.
That is correct.
When you look at this, it looks like the letters are outlined in black there. Is that the way that would be, or is that just?
So there's a frame, yeah, so they'll basically be a 6-inch frame.
Yeah.
The red is set back about 2 inches, and then the LED is inside of that. So there is a slight frame that goes around it. Shouldn't be too perceivable, but it will help contain kind of that sense of the letters.
Do you modulate the light intensity during the day? I mean, is it lighter at night, or is it less?
Off during the day pretty much, and then when we come to nighttime, we'll have the ability, given the LED, to modulate the intensity of it. That's the nice thing with the technologies today. So it does give us that control.
Any questions, comments?
At first glance, the sign seems like it's huge, but it's on top of a very tall building. And in fact, that it's not on the building, but it's on an elevated tower, really helps a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it, the scale of it seem okay. I'm usually the first one that slants smaller.
Right.
I agree with that. I was wondering too, the black frame that's behind it, is there intention that you want that to show, because that again is old school, very, I guess you could say, I can't think of the word, but just something that looks kind of industrial and old
Yes.
school. And so the elevator the elevator tower behind that, is that also the same color or a little different color?
It's a little different color. The frame on this is black. The metal panel that is behind it that's covering the elevator overrun is a darker gray. So they will have a little contrast off of one another, but not a lot.
It's good.
Yeah,
Actually, not one from the street level.
that's right. That's right. But we do want that frame to show a little, but not be the prominent. The sign is still the primary, so the structure becomes a secondary element to it.
Do you mount these at the edge of the building then?
It is mounted about 6 inches off the face of the metal.
Okay. How far up off the, it's on the parapet?
It's on the elevator overrun. The does go above the elevator overrun, but that's the only portion that goes above.
Okay. Questions? Comments?
I appreciate the views put together, the level views, so we can see the perspective in relation to the other signs.
Great. And we did receive, during business meeting with HRC, very favorable of the size and scale also, Bob, to your point, and very, and we have that meeting this afternoon because it's out of sequence. We typically would go to HRC first and then come to you, but given the timing of the meetings.
And I think procedurally what we're supposed to do is, second those guys. Or
Correct.
behind those guys.
Correct.
What's everybody want to do here? Okay, there's a motion to approve.
This is just a conceptual, so.
Is it conceptual?
Yes.
It is conceptual, but at the same time, if, without HRC, the question is there a way that we can approve it?
Subject to your approval with HRC.
Yeah, we can't act. I just had a question. Just to clarify, in these drawings, we see that there are 3 metal pieces behind the sign, except for on the, is that accurate or is?
That is correct. Yep.
Just wanted to point that.
Does everybody want to approve this subject to, obviously? Yeah. Okay, so we would make that motion subject to HRC approval. And is there a second on that basis? Okay, if that's okay with you, anybody from the audience have a comment? Is that, yes, okay, let's just do that. Then all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, so you would be making this staff approvable then, if HRC
No.
approves it as presented, or it needs to come back to you all?
No, we're approving it and subject to HRC saying it's approved. If they do not, then you don't issue the COA. If they do, you can issue the COA, and it's not a staff approval. We have approved. Okay.
Let me see, I have the code here for HRC. I think it is that this board cannot take action on the item until HRC does. And it's just, let's see.
Okay.
There's nothing in the code that says, it's just our tradition is that we like to go to HRC first.
The historic district code 335929 says that the downtown commission can't take action on a case until after it has been reviewed by the HRC. This was given to me by the HRC folks for this meeting, specifically for this, because it is wonky that this.
We're out of sequence, unfortunately.
Yeah, because of the holidays and the meetings
So
are
I would
sequence.
say that we can't take action on
We
it.
could still take action conditioned on.
Yeah.
We would think we could. I'll tell you what, let's do this. We've voted on this. If for some reason or another, somebody wants to call a procedural issue over this thing, with your permission, I just had to come back next month. So I'm gonna think this should be okay.
We'll know by the end of the day.
It's okay with us.
Right, or staff approval, right, they could also. do that.
Or you could do, yeah, we could do a staff approval if you wanted to do that and call that. So why don't you just see what the procedure on that is then? That sounds strained a little bit to me. So let's just say that, we're assuming that this will be approved at HRC today and we have approved it on our end. If somebody says, oh, you guys stepped out of bounds, we'll just figure out how to fix it and then we'll fix it, okay?
Okay.
And if you can do that, at that point, if you can receive,
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
And I think we're 5th on the agenda.
we will not be here at 4 o'clock.
Just to clarify, if this action is able to occur, who was the motion and who was the second, so we can have it for the record? Moved by Ms. Brown, seconded by Mr. Lumberson. Okay, yes, I'm happy to go upstairs and check. I just.
Yeah, that's fine. No, we like to follow procedure and we try to do that. So I guess you
We do, but we don't like the fact that someone has some regulation without talking.
well, we didn't know about that. Maybe it's always been there at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
Okay.
just say, it'll be taken.
We think it's fine.
We don't want you to have.
We're not arguing. We appreciate it for sure. That's
one
great.
hell of a prank. We don't want you to bring it out of place.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, before the HRC meeting tonight, we'll check in on this upstairs and all
Okay.
as well.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a nice holiday.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Okay. Anything else for us today? Staff approved.
Yes, just a second.
Okay. Any questions, comments on the staff approvals? Is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve. Tony, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Any other new business, old business, anything?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
I do.
Okay,
Matt.
please.
You know, this has been a continuing theme. I just think of these other meetings. I don't know what we can do to, improve the consistency of the applicants and what they're coming to the table with. This isn't a ordinary neighborhood area commission where we have inexperienced people or first timers. We give our most prominent architects, our most well-heeled developers and owners that are coming to this meeting, and the inconsistency and the lack of awareness as to what we're looking for or what we need to have in these meetings. Now, the talent on this commission, we always have the right questions to bring these things out ultimately, but we can have a more efficient process if the presenters would come with more information. I don't know if staff has some suggestions that maybe it's from other commissions, or those of you that have been here for many years have suggestions, but it just seems, I don't know what the answer is, but it seems though we've got to get some more consistency or get the word out to the architectural community, relevant community, or the older community, or whomever it is.
With some drug systems that have almost 30 years.
And I don't know if it's a matter of folks just don't know, or folks don't think it matters.
Well,
And you know, it's,
to answer your question, we literally have, struggled with this for a long time. And I just say two things. One, it is in the guidelines, okay? And then secondly, the staff people have, and now Stephanie's new here, and I don't know if she's going to be talking to applicants when they come in, but we try to reinforce with the applicants when they bring the cases in, that we want a complete set so that we can approve. If we don't have that, we cannot approve, okay? And they just have to know that. And occasionally we have simply sent people back. I mean, there were, things today in one of the cases that, needed further work on. So I think we got two things and we just reinforced it. And then I think we have to, when we're in here, we have to expect a complete package. And if we don't get it, say, sorry, we'd like to have you come back, and get us what we need, because we get into trouble if we approve something and something isn't clear. That's how we can end up getting something happening out there, namely being built, that is not what we think we're going to see. That's not.
I think we are doing a good job of folks come and it's not complete. We're asking the right questions. But again, I go back to, I'm thinking about the vast majority of the time, not every time, we're dealing with very experienced people that have been in this community for a long time. And I just don't understand why they keep. I mean, I don't want to pick on one project in particular, but like the spaghetti warehouse, the first time they came, it's done.
Yeah.
And then I talked to people afterwards, like, well, we didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah. They do.
Well, I mean, you have the things that are expected for complete package, but maybe even beyond that, let's say if something is coming for final review, let's say, or if there's demolition involved, the replacement project has to be at a certain level and has to, you have to have this complete set. So we're not a complete set like construction documents, but something where we can see elevation, we can see the concept. It's because I think sometimes, I think in some things it's easy for people to know, I need elevations, I need a floor plan, I need this or that. If it's, you're just coming for the final review. But I think in other cases, like if it's demolition and they're trying to explain the concept of the replacement building, I think that sometimes gets murky. And then today, I think was a good example where, I think maybe we should also have a condition that if there is a project and it's on a campus or it affects other surrounding buildings, that really, you really need to bring that to, or especially if, I mean, maybe every time you should, but especially if it's on.
For conceptual.
Yeah.
No,
Look, when CCD came in, they did all that.
Right.
Okay. But you're talking even smaller projects like where, the project on K Street, where they were moving the Manson roof or whatever the name is, you guys, the Manson roof, whatever. They spoke about the whole streetscape and.
And they have the condition that you have to bring contextual information.
We're very consistent too, because you remember Lewis, he went around and took pictures of all the adjacent buildings and presented us the context.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that sort of went away. So we're about as inconsistent as the applicant as it relates to that.
You know what is the biggest change, I think, is it used to be that the architect or the owner, somebody would come in and present their project and talk about all those things. Now, we don't do that. The staff presents a very dry, code compliant narrative of what we've already read in the proposal. And then they tell us, well, we think it's consistent with the guidelines, so you can approve it. I think we should go back to having the applicant present their project, talk about why they're doing it, and not just answer questions. And I think if they're encouraged to do that and tell them, because we're a zoning commission, context is really important. No matter what you're doing, we need to know how it relates to what's around it. But we ought to know what the rationale is for making the building red or whatever it is. And I
We
think-
do ask the applicants to discuss the projects.
Well, we do, but it's after it's already been presented and it hasn't been presented from their perspective. We should put the onus on that. The other thing is, I think we should require the owner to come. Just say if the owner representative is not here, we're not going to see the case. Because the architects or the attorneys or whoever.
Or the sign guys.
Yeah, yeah, right. You talk about the sign guy and you have questions that relate to the owner and they can't answer. And I think on the application, it says the owner's encouraged to come.
Yes.
It's the owner's application.
So I would say with any of this, I think this is a good conversation, and I also sat at the university and practiced your review board, and we had a similar conversation last year. And I think just something to keep in mind as you're having these conversations is what we can do, what code says. So there are, a difference between code and policy and, what the application says is required, and can we be more specific on things like that, or can we require an owner to be here? I'm happy to look into any of those questions you may have, but that's just something to keep in mind, that there may be things that would be great if we could require them, but for some reason with code or whatnot.
Well, and we have taken I think we've taken the position sometimes. I mean, I think from my standpoint, our position has been that helps us if the owner's here. Because if we have a question, sometimes frankly, the design person can't answer the question, but the owner can. And so it just helps us get the case moved. And our goal in life has been to approve cases and get it stuff. So to that end, I mean, it's just a helpful thing.
And I'm happy to reiterate, or Belkis, whoever I'm sure is happy to reiterate to applicants an encouragement for the owner to come to answer any questions that their design team may not be able to.
Okay, very good.
The architect who was doing the finance fund project, he committed to do a whole bunch of stuff. His number made up for you.
Well, they made some pretty major changes.
Yeah.
And that thing too, so, yeah, and so, you know, I think we've got to have good.
I don't think so too.
I need to run. Anything, anybody else have any other?
One thing, when, because I didn't really have to run, just when we went to the presentation yesterday at, the Columbus Metropolitan Club, it was very interesting to hear Amy Taylor talk about strategies for, you know, engaging retail and how to activate first level construction. And I think it might be interesting to have her or somebody from that one, you know, from used to be CPDC, come and speak, because then when we look at projects that have that component to them, we'll understand more what seems to be working for the downtown, what isn't working, what they found out from their research, what they, you know, what they've investigated. So I think it could help us be knowledgeable when we're, you know, looking at things and different strategies, and just feel more informed about that and have the most updated information. It might just give us another layer of understanding to. So it's just something I was thinking about. That might be, or you know, somebody else can do it. Yeah.
I think so. That's the kind of information you get too.
Right.
What the program is.
Okay, well, and by the way, let's face it, I mean, some are more complicated and some are easier. The Gay Street thing with the windows, so that with the Rotary building, that was an easy one. And, you know, that's an important building there at Spring. It's Cleveland. And that really needs to be done well. So, well, listen, everybody have a wonderful holiday.
Yes, yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything else? This meeting is adjourned. Stephanie, thank you. Adam, thank you. See, you got us right through it.